So I'll just record this first part and then we'll have interactions after I teach the lesson. So I went to Nigeria back in May of last year, 2025. I visited Abuja and Plateau State, Jos. I was doing some projects in education. And when I was coming back, I landed in Germany. Okay, so this was in Germany. And in Germany, they had a board. Okay, they had a board like this. And it would say what city your flight from Germany is going to, like what time is the flight going to leave. So it might say something like, let's say 11:15 a.m. And then they have another one that says like Charlotte, North Carolina, and the flight might be leaving at 12:30 p.m. Whatever, and on and on and on. So this is a true story, and I can tell you some of the people that were part of this story. So I got to the airport, and there were a lot of people who had just got off the plane, and they were looking at this dashboard, and they all were wondering, like, when is my flight going to America, right? So we were in Germany, we had come from Nigeria or wherever people had come from, and they were trying to figure out what time their flight would be going to America. So I looked on the dashboard and I realized there was a pattern. I realized that there was a pattern. And the pattern I noticed was the boarding pass in your hand, the boarding pass was not the same time as the big screen. So the big screen over here and the boarding pass, this would say, for example, 11:45. Well, let's say that's your flight to Dallas. I don't remember. I think I flew into Dallas or Houston. So let's say that's to Dallas. And then the boarding pass would say something like 11:15. Okay. So this is not a very hard math problem, but it was a problem for some people because they couldn't connect why are these numbers not matching? Well, if you look closely enough, I think it was on these ones. The rule was that the boarding pass time was about 30 minutes before the time that would show up on the dashboard, something like that. Now, why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because what people think when they think about mathematics is sometimes wrong. Actually, I'll be honest with you, most people don't even know what math is. And the reason why I tell you that is because math is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be exciting. You're supposed to love it. Most people don't love it. And that's because we kind of lied to them, right? And that's what we want to solve in this class. I want to show you some things about what math even is. Math is about patterns, okay? So that's one of today's lessons. Every time we meet, you guys will hear a little bit of a life lesson, and then we'll dive into our problems. So math is about patterns. And understanding these patterns will give you an advantage. Who thought that understanding of the nature of patterns would work out in my favor? Because guess what? I told the first person when they saw that I was ready to go and I knew where my flight was going to go from, they actually said, "Excuse me, sir, how did you know?" So I told them, check. We thank God. That was a great opportunity to help somebody. But guess what? The second person asked. Guess what? The third person asked. The next thing you know it, I'm like telling people what time their flights are. Isn't that interesting? But how did I know that? All I had to do was to find the pattern. So I want you to be thinking about math as you go into this school year. Math is about patterns. Look for patterns. If you don't understand what's going on in math, it's not because math has a problem, it's that we haven't found the pattern. So give math a chance and seek to love math. When you love math, you do more of it. And when you do more of it, you become good at it. And when you become good at it, there is no profession in the world you can't do. If you know how to do math, you can do anything with your life. Literally, except if you don't like blood, then don't be a doctor. But the point is, if you like math, you will go far. If you're good at math in 2026, your future is bright. If you don't like math in 2026, you're playing a very dangerous game. Why did Mr. Amos say that? Because the world for the next 15 years is literally hinging on everything math. Everything. Like every single thing in the next 10 to 15 years hinges on mathematics. AI, math. Quantum computing, math. Space exploration and engineering, math. Biotechnology, math. I could go on and on and on. You guys get the gist. So I really want to encourage us today. Our life lesson, 1 more minute. Do your best to keep learning, to keep growing, and to give math a fresh perspective. You can be good at math. You need to be good at math. And even if you don't want to become a scientist, even lawyers, people who are better in math, are able to pass some of their exams getting into law school. Math helps everybody. So with that said, and I'll give us time to discuss what I'm discussing. Today, I want to introduce us all to a new topic. Everybody should be able to participate afterwards if you want. You don't have to, but I want to talk to you about graphing, okay? And one of the things I want to do with graphing is I want to start from scratch. So I want to start from scratch, and I want to talk to you about graphing and how does all of that work. So today I want to start, so this is the topic, okay? So please take your notes, write the date, 7/23/26, write the date, and today's topic, oops, sorry, it went away. Give me one second. Okay, today's topic is graphing. Okay, so this is the topic for today. And we are starting with a couple of things. Number one, we're going to do a brief history. Okay, so we're going to talk about a brief history of graphing. Number two, we're going to talk about brief applications of graphing. Number three, we're going to talk about something called coordinate geometry as it ties to graphing. Number four, we're going to talk about slope formula. Okay, so those are the 4 things. Let me quickly go through these, and then let's have time for discussions. Please write down the things you want us to discuss. I'd love to hear your thoughts on any of these topics, but if you want to stay quiet on them too, that is completely okay. So let's look at, we're going to start with a brief history. A brief history of graphing. Now, this is something you will not learn in your schools. It is very sad. One of my goals is to bring it to your schools. So hopefully more of your schools will teach this. There are too many students who have no clue why we call it the Cartesian plane. People have no clue why it's called the Cartesian plane. What is the Cartesian plane? This is the Cartesian plane you guys might be familiar with. It looks like this, and then it looks like this, and then we do this. We draw it in our grid, okay, and we say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then we come over here, 1, 2, 3, like this, and we write it down as -1, -2, -3, -4, and so on. And then we go up, okay, and I'm gonna not draw this over and over again, so you guys might want to get some graph paper next time. But let me just say a couple of things. Number one, this is called the Cartesian plane. And if I put a point over here, this point is like battleship. It corresponds to that, and it corresponds to that. So this is 3, 2. That's called that point. The number here represents the x-axis. This represents the y-axis.
Yes.
Now, we have the x-axis, we have the y-axis. This is the fundamentals of graphing as we get started in this journey. And the man who came up with the Cartesian plane, his name is René Descartes. So that is the history, part of the history. And why it's called the Cartesian plane, if you look at his name, you begin to notice, oh, that's why it's called the Cartesian plane, because it was named after René Descartes. Okay, he lived from 1596 to 1650. Just to give you reference, this was around the time, so he died right around the time when the smartest man, probably arguably the smartest man to ever live, was born, whose name was Isaac Newton. So you guys will know Isaac Newton was born here. Isaac Newton is the one that is one of the co-founders of something called calculus. So Isaac Newton was born right towards the end of René Descartes' life. René Descartes only lived to the age of 54, but he gave us the Cartesian plane. He gave us this tool that we use in mathematics. And so when you look at the history of mathematics, the smartest people in the history of the world, literally almost every one of them lived between this time frame. Literally, we are still yet to come close to the mental, the level of output that they had within these 200 years, right? Those 200 years are like the most impressive 200 years of humanity in terms of intellectual ability. It was unbelievable what they did. During this time, we got Galileo, who was studying, astronomy. We got Kepler, who told us about the solar system. We got Newton. We got Gauss, on and on and on, right? Now, my goal and prayer is that my students create the next generation of excellence. So this class you're part of right now is about making you one of the best to ever live by God's grace, right? That's the goal. I don't want you to be ordinary. That's why I'm telling you the story of some of these people that were not ordinary, right? There's too much ordinary. There's too much mediocrity in the world. There's too much apathy. There's too much people just playing. It's like, that's not what we need right now. We need more Isaac Newton type people. We need more René Descartes. They were not perfect, but they worked hard, right? I don't agree with all of them on everything. But anyways, back to the history. So around 1600, let's say 1625, René Descartes comes up with the Cartesian plane idea, or somewhere in the 1600s. It revolutionized everything. He is literally one of the most important people in the history of math. Let me go forward and I'll come back. Do you know that in math, we have geometry over here, then we have algebra over here, then we have calculus over here. This is in the history of math. So this will be around 300 BC, and this will be around 800 AD. So you have Euclid over here. You have Al-Khwarizmi over here. You have Newton over here. And do you know that Descartes unified all of this in a sense? Because we can now graph. Everybody see why this guy's a big deal? It's kind of a big deal. He unified mathematics, especially these two branches. One man essentially did something that brought together geometry and algebra together. And his name was René Descartes. So this, whenever you're graphing and you're just having fun and you think it's easy now for you, be glad that René Descartes did something with his life, right? Now, I want to tell you one more quick story. And the story is René Descartes is actually very influential, but there was another man named Pierre de Fermat. And then there was another man named Blaise Pascal. All three of them were French. These guys were all French mathematicians. Think about it. This is like Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, and like Neymar playing on the same soccer team. Like, this is crazy. This is like the three phenomenal mathematicians, but they all lived right before Isaac Newton. So when Newton came, he had these people before him. Are you guys seeing that life is interesting? The people that come before you will determine sometimes how far you go in life. Because of the people that came before Newton, Newton read Descartes. Newton knew Fermat's work. Newton knew Blaise Pascal. Everybody see? That's why Newton had a boost. And he's famous for saying, if I've seen further, I've stood on the shoulders of giants. Guys, pay attention. The people that you focus on can help you go far in life, or you can just choose to remain mediocre, right? Newton did not remain mediocre. Okay, let's go back to our graph. So this is our graph. If I have a point over here, this point, by the way, all my notes will be saved. So everybody will get this PDF. So even though you see me switching screens, I'm actually saving all the notes. So all the notes will be saved in a document and you can get it, okay? So don't feel bad if I moved to a new screen. So this point is 3, 4. We're gonna do an exercise together, don't worry. That's this point, it's 3, 4. If I go down and I pick over and I go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, this is 5, and I come down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Over here, this is -5, -7. See, I'm plotting points like Battleship. That is the first aspect of knowing how to graph, which is today's lesson. The first lesson for graphing is plotting points. So I'm gonna stop for a second, give you guys some points to plot, just to give you some practice, and then I'm gonna stop recording, give us a chance to have some conversations about, let's see, we're gonna have some conversations about plotting points, about the history, but the first skill, okay, this is the first skill I want us to talk about with graphing, is I want us to be able to plot any points based on the information that you're giving. So let us go ahead. I'm going to stop, give us a chance to say hello, look at some of our graphs, and then we'll record the second segment. But I'm going to stop now and make sure that we have time to speak. So let me stop recording and we can